Kristin, and I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia in August 2010.
Hello, my name is Benny, and I'm a caregiver for Kristin.
After my cancer relapse in 2014, I had exhausted all standard treatment protocols, and so that led me to start to seek clinical trials as a potential option for treatment. My oncologist informed me about CAR T-cell, and it was 2014, and cellular therapy was very much in its infancy in terms of material that was out available for people to read about and hear about. It made so much sense using your own immune system to fight cancer, as clearly my body was building up a resistance to the chemotherapies, and I was being left with very toxic side effects, many of which I still have today. Clinical trials offered me an option of hope and possibly a gift of more time. It's also where the medical breakthroughs are happening. I think for me, I knew that even if it didn't work for me, I wanted to pay it forward by helping cancer research so that it could help other future cancer patients.
And they take very good care of you when you're in a clinical trial. They give you a lot of attention, and most of the therapy and procedures are paid for. So clinical trial was actually a very, very good option for us.
I did have to travel out of state to receive the CAR T-cell immunotherapy treatment.
This is Shahzad. I'm diagnosed with the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, diffuse large B cells, in February 2016.
My name is Nicole, and I am his advocate and caregiver.
So I did all the research and homework. His job was just to take care of himself health-wise. So he had several treatments that did not work, and we were preparing for an auto stem cell transplant. And I went to a Leukemia and Lymphoma Society conference in San Francisco. And after the keynote speech, they broke out into groups. Of course, I went to the subgroup for the DLBC, and it was there that a doctor presented what he was working on in trial as CAR T. And this goes back almost 4 years ago. So it was still in its infancy stage. And that's where I first learned about it. And it was as though I was supposed to be in that room and at that time to hear that presentation. And from there, I went into full mode to learn everything I could about CAR T. And at that time, it was not expected to be approved for a couple of years. So I was watching it and following it, but really didn't have any expectation of it being within reach. He actually got commercial Yescarta 2 months after it was FDA approved. When we applied for CAR T, it was not available in our hometown. So we had to find the nearest facility that had already been approved to facilitate it. And that was at Stanford University Hospital. And yes, it's about 600 miles. So we did drive there for both the leukapheresis and the pre-chemo and the hospital visit and the 28 days afterwards. I can't complain. Our insurance was very generous, and we were given an apartment on campus. We could walk across the street to the clinic or to the hospital. So it was very convenient, and we were very fortunate. So actually, Stanford has a social worker, and she actually went out and found the apartment for us. And then the insurance, they negotiated the contractual rate, and insurance paid it, and then they covered our food and gas. The second time, insurance denied it initially, and then I filed an appeal, and Novartis was actually able to donate his T cells and room and board, which was very generous. My advice to patients and caregivers for financial needs is to really explore every resource possible. Sometimes you have to be creative, ask others, ask your teams, both local and
the CAR T team if they're different. Hospitals have social workers. There are funds available. Sometimes you just have to dig for them, but you should never let the cost of CAR T dissuade you from getting this process.
Hi, I'm Scott. My wife is Robin, and she had CAR T in 2016. When she relapsed the third time in 2016, following her stem cell transplant the year before, with large B-cell lymphoma, the options basically were two: to move forward to an allo transplant or try a clinical trial. She was aware of the CAR T clinical trials that were just coming out of phase 1 at that time, and it had some good responses. And Robin was only 54 at the time, and just wasn't through with being a physician and a mom and an active traveling exerciser. She was hopeful for something that would let her regain her entire life, a professional, family, and physical life. And CAR T was that option, but it was just, kind of ethereal at the time. It was a theory, and there were clinical trials. Nothing had been FDA approved. No products or treatments were approved. And so we started trying to find where they were doing it. So I went through the clinicaltrials.gov website and emailed every single lead researcher in the country who was doing B-cell CD19 CAR T, and just did not get a whole lot of response. And then it was a contacts of Robin, who on a physician mom's Facebook group site kept posting her requests to find a clinical trial spot, and this wonderful oncologist in Ohio saw it, and they had a funded spot with the Novartis trial, which later became Kymriah. I think people's attitudes about clinical trials fall into one or two camps. The positive one is that it's the advanced treatments that are coming down the pike, and it's better to be involved in an advanced treatment than some of the barbaric, or what will someday be considered barbaric treatments that cancer patients have had in the past. And we're better than we used to be, but it's of the three treatments that Robin got, the CAR T was by far the easier one and the better one. And it's my opinion we need to move CAR T up in the batting order and get it ahead of any kind of transplant, for heaven's sakes. But then the flip side is that I do have some friends who've had blood cancers, and they just were very hesitant to get into a clinical trial because it was experimental. It was just not something proven, and they were dealing with physicians who wanted to stick with the chemos and things that worked for them, and those are the two camps. And I'm so glad that we went to CAR T when we did, and it's been the right choice for us. So I would say to folks to do your own research and figure out what you want your life to look like, and a clinical trial might be for you, because it is the way that all the new treatments, they have to start out as clinical trials. There's no other way to get them approved except by doing the proving. So yeah, my wife was the first person from the Carolinas to get CAR T, but we made the choice, and we're glad that we did. And I will say, after we got into the trial at Ohio State, I did start getting emails back from all these lead investigators that I had emailed about their CAR T trials. They all told me the same thing, which if you're going to get CAR T and you're in line, get it. Don't get out of line to come to Seattle, even though we'd love to have you or whatever. Stay in line, get CAR T, and we did.